Hey, folks, my guest today is Benny Schneider. He's a high-tech serial entrepreneur and recently co-founded Salto, now serving as its president and chairman of the board. In the past, he co-founded Ravello, acquired by Oracle in 2016, another company acquired by Red Hat, and another one by Cisco twice, actually. This guy knows what he's doing. He invests in services board as a board member in several startups. Some examples are Autonomo, Traffic Systems, and VHive. Benny, ready to take us to the top?
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell us about Salto. I mean, are you actually in the business building it, or are you advising the co-founders?
Yeah, so I'm part of the company. That's my day job. And that's where I go to work every day. I'm spending most of the time over there. The company is run by Rami Kamir, my co-partner, is the CEO of the company, and Gil Ofer, which is based, he recently moved to Sunny Valley in the US.
Very cool. Okay, and give us a sense of what Salto does and who's paying for it. What kind of sales teams?
Okay, so let's start from the problem that we are trying to solve in Salto. If you think about the modern world, we have the companies, the SaaS companies that are developing their own product, and then there is the business operation part of it. Till now, the product itself was separate from the business operation. If you think about the methodology being used by the developer, they are like 5G, fifth generation of technology. When you look at the technology used to develop the other tools, the business operation tools, they are like 2G. So what we are trying to do in Salto is bring the methodologies and the tools that we use and we are still developing in the agile development world into the BizOp world.
Interesting. Okay, tell me, just to make this real for my audience, Benny, tell me a story of how a real customer is using it, if there's one you can talk about.
Yeah, so let's talk admin of Salesforce that wants to do change management. Change management is something that's very trivial in the old world. If you think about developers, we are doing it all the time. We have multiple environments, we have multiple features, we have multiple developers. In the case of tools like NetSuite, like Salesforce, managing those is much more difficult. So they have to decide, they have to time what are the changes that they are going to do, how they are going to apply it, who is going to work on it. They are thinking more the old way of releases and moving from one sandbox to another sandbox. What we are allowing them to do, solve the biggest problem that exists today with those tools, which is to extract the configuration, put it in modern tools like GitHub, like CI/CD, and be able to make the changes and the change management with the new modern tools.
I love it. I love this space. Very niche, very focused, but a very, very big market. Salesforce is huge. You're catering to any Salesforce admin that wants to manage change management.
Right.
All right.
Till now, we were talking between us about Salesforce, but I don't want to get you that you will get the feeling, or the listeners, that we're only doing Salesforce. The vision of the company was that, number one, it has to be the same thing for all the SaaS tools that enterprises are using today for business operation. In reality, people will always talk to you about 2, 3, maybe 4, one for CRM, one for finance, one for marketing, and maybe one for HR. But when we go and talk to customer, they have thousands of tools. So we build a generic solution. Think about it like a platform that has adapters and can work with each one of those tools that we just mentioned.
Understood. And Benny, when folks are paying you for this technology to save themselves time, energy, and money, what are they paying you on average per month to use the tech?
So they are starting from about as low as $10,000, and they can go up to probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. We just started selling, so we are at very early stages.
When did you get your first customer, Benny, your first paying customer?
Excuse me, who is it?
When did you guys get your first paying customer?
Earlier this year, probably in Q1.
Okay. And just to be clear, you're saying the average price is $10,000 a month or a year?
$10,000 a year.
A
Sorry.
year. Okay, got it. So maybe $1,000 a month and then
Right.
$12,000 a year. But you think this is going to be over time an enterprise motion. You're going to stay at the 10, 20, 30, $50,000 a year range.
Right. Yeah.
I
There are
see.
several dimensions to the pricing, features, number of users, number of transactions. We also launch today, or these days, we are launching a free tier that allows the user to use the full service with all the features with most of the features that we have. And we have also an open source version that allows people who want to use it without the managed service that we are using themselves. So think about it like three-way in terms of go-to-market. Open source, free tier, and the regular SaaS selling model.
So Benny, you just launched, you got your first paying customer this year, I guess earlier this year. How many customers are you working with now today?
We are working with tens of customers, and we have already about 10 paying customers.
Hey, congratulations. That's an exciting, you've been through this a couple of times, so you know how important it is to get those first 10, right?
Absolutely.
The question I have for you guys is you guys did a remarkable job at attracting capital before your first dollar of revenue. I mean, you have effectively raised almost $70 million pre-revenue. So take me back to that Series A. What was the story that you were saying back in 2020 and how much did you raise?
We raised altogether, like you said, about $70 million in 3 rounds. One was in the first seed round in 2019.
How much was that one?
It was about $3.5 million.
Okay.
And then we did the Series A beginning of 2020, which was about altogether with the seed about $24 million. And the rest of it was earlier this year in 2021, of course.
I see. And again, how are you guys able to raise so much cap? I mean, obviously you have a great background, so I'm sure you have a lot of connections here, right? But I mean, you guys are also taking a lot of dilution, right? Pre-revenue. I mean, how do you manage all that?
Well, this is probably a question for about 2 years ago. The world, especially here in Israel, I'm calling you from Tel Aviv, from Ra'anana actually, has changed. So you can imagine that the capital raising environment is different. I believe that one of the reasons is that people trust us. People like what we are doing. They see the initial traction. And we used most of the VCs that we used in the past. So, with some of the VCs, it's like the third time. Some of them, it's the second time. So kind of easy. And we are building our ecosystem.
This is Excel, Salesforce Ventures, which makes sense. Bessemer, Lightspeed, folks you've worked with prior.
Correct.
Yep. Now, when you talk about traction that you point to, if you have 10 customers today at around $1,000 or $2,000 a month, I mean, you guys are doing $10,000, $20,000 a month in MRR right now. So is that accurate?
We don't talk about the numbers. The numbers are actually higher, but I would rather not talk about the numbers now. They are lower anyhow, but we are looking at a major expansion in the coming years.
Well, I guess I won't push you harder on the numbers there, but it's fair to say you're doing less than $1 million run rate today, right? You just turned on pricing. Yeah. So that's the reason I'm asking. So what metrics are you pointing to when you just go raise a $42 million Series B? What are you pointing to say, look, it's growing? Most people say revenue, but you don't have that much. So what are you using metrics wise?
We are using mainly the market potential. We are using comparables with other companies that are playing in our space. We are using.
Who are some of those companies?
Some of the companies are Copado, for example, GearSet.
Yeah, but Copado's growing like crazy. I mean, Ted Elliott is growing that business. I mean, I had him on 4 months ago and or 6 months ago, they were doing 40 million in ARR. He just emailed me and said I could share it publicly that they passed a $52 million run rate and raised at the 1.1 billion valuation. So they've got a lot of revenue already. So how do you use that as comparable?
Well, they were a younger company. And when they were younger, they probably had another set of valuation, which was probably, I imagine, lower than $1 billion.
Well, yeah, so, but they hadn't raised. I mean, the amount of money, the capital profile of that business is way different than the capital profile currently that you guys are on track for. In other words, what I mean by that is their first round was a $9 million round in 2018. And then when they raised in 2020, which they raised a $26 million round for, they already passed a $5 million run rate at that point, almost a $6 million run rate. So I guess all I'm asking is, I understand comparables, but like I'm just focused on you guys. Can you point to like free usage, growth in free usage, or anything? Like, what were some of the metrics you used?
It's too early. We just launched these days. We are only launching these days the free tier, so it's early to tell.
Okay.
But again, I mean, when you're looking at the potential of what it is that we are doing, you are looking at the customer reaction, the customer attraction that we are having, the growth that we are already having in the accounts that expanded from earlier this year. These are all significant.
Benny, what are some of the things you guys are expanding against? Is it number of API calls, number of seats, feature-based upselling? Take us there. How does that work?
Right. So it's number of, first of all, number of interfaces. So people will start, for example, with NetSuite, and let's say one developer or one admin, and they will expand to Salesforce. They will add developers, and then they will add features. Then they will add other tools to our offering like Jira. So the land and expand is built in within our architecture and within our go-to-market and pricing strategy.
Yep, that all makes good sense. That's helpful. Now, when you guys raised the $42 million, I was going to say 42 billion, maybe one day, right? When you raised your, when you raised your,
we want to talk about revenues at these numbers, yes.
Yeah. When you guys raised at the 42 million, I mean, most people on their Series B, they're selling somewhere between sort of 10 and 15% of the business. Did you guys do a pretty standard round there, or was there something unique?
I don't think there was anything unique, but we are still holding interesting part in the company, the employees, the founders. So it's all good for everybody. We are not looking at the cap table. We are looking at success. I always say that success is binary. Don't worry about how much is left. Make sure that you are successful first, and then everything will fall into the right place.
I like that. But Benny, if you guys raise a 42 million Series B, and even if it's at a, maybe a lower valuation of 300 million, right? So you're selling 10 to 20% of the business, that drastically decreases what some people would define as success. For example, you couldn't sell to Salesforce for $250 million or $250 million because your last round valuation was higher than that, right? So how do you guys define success? You've actually limited your optionality because you raised so much, right?
So we have a different set of mind. We worry about the success, as I said, and everything will organize itself in the future. So rather than worrying about the exit, we are making sure that we have all the resources in terms of capital, in this case, relationship. I didn't mention it, but Salesforce is one of our investors, and they are definitely helping us within the ecosystem. So we are organizing in terms of capital to make sure that we have all the chances to be successful in this competitive market. Don't look at the competitive market just from the perspective of competition. We're also competing on talent. The Israeli environment is extremely competitive when it comes to talent. I believe it's also in other parts of the world. I know it is because we are recruiting also in the Bay Area, in California, and elsewhere in the States. And I think the other part is the attention of the customers, making sure that they understand what it is that we are doing. They understand what kind of painful problem we are solving to them and how we can make their life better. And the biggest problem when you talk to business operation people is they want to be part of the company's success. They want to develop the tools and the processes for the company that will help the business be successful. Right now, the tools don't allow them to be as agile as the rest of the businesses. Mm-hmm. We are empowering them to be basically a very ambitious concept. We call it company as code. So everything, think about, you probably heard about monolithic repository, like monorepo. Everything is one code. Your code that you are using to develop your service, whatever SaaS service you are providing, and business operation. Everything is one thing, one monolithic thing. You can do the CI/CD with this methodology consistently across all your tools. This is very powerful. Business operation people are becoming very important to the success of the business, and they are running at the pace of the business. This is much bigger than trying to say we are allowing this and that tool to do change management. We are allowing those people to be more agile and help the business generate revenue, make the changes that they need at the pace that they need.
If you guys are successful, who are you putting out of business?
I don't know if we will put people out of business. I would define our success in people that are doing business operation today will be far more productive and far more relevant to the business.
What are they currently using though, where they're going to cancel and probably switch to you guys? I mean, are they canceling Looker? Or they can't what are they canceling?
I think they're canceling manual work, and they are canceling. It's not that they are canceling, but they are not as agile as they could be. So let's say today they are making changes twice a week, maybe twice, 3 times a month. With us, they can make changes 2 times a day, even more. They can make the changes in sync with whatever tools they are using to develop the product. Think about the modern SaaS. You have all kinds of hooks between the product itself and whatever the CRM that you're using, or the financial tool that you're using. If you're breaking one field here, you'll break the entire thing and your entire operation will be done. So I'm not thinking about this as what we are expanding. I'm thinking about this. I'll give you one example or one analogy.
Benny, sorry, what I'm trying to do is connect where the vision of where you're trying to take the business to something that's common knowledge across my audience, right? So that's why I'm trying to make the connection here. It sounds to me what you're saying is basically this is a much sexier and easier to use and more productive version of like what MuleSoft might be, or like today might be Zapier, where you're connecting multiple streams, you're managing change across many streams, the pipes of the internet, focus though on the sales structure first.
Correct. And we are focusing on the configuration. If you think about Zapier that you just mentioned, they are connecting more the data at Move. We are connecting the configuration of all those tools. And we are synchronizing the configuration. So you think about this, there are 3 parts here. There is the configuration, the integration, and there is the business processes. Nobody has done the configuration itself so far.
Yeah, no, makes sense to me. Hey, we're running out of time, Benny, but last couple questions here. What's the team look like today? How many people?
We are about 46 people in the company.
46. And how many engineers?
About 30.
30. And we love, something's happening in Israel. You know, I've had a lot of great founders on. I mean, it's, you know, CoreLogix is growing very fast. You've got Yotpo, you've got Guy at Czech, who's in New York now, but something's in the water over there. Would you credit most of this to just what the defense program puts people through and how it makes them think like an entrepreneur?
That's only part of it, but there is a lot of other good things. And recently, the big change, if you want, finally, the late stage funds have discovered Israel. So we call them crossover fund, but it's really late stage that are allowing Israeli companies to run all the way and not sell themselves too early to American corporations like we did, let's say, 5-10 years ago.
I love that. Well, I'm rooting for you, Benny. I hope you guys have a ton of success. In the meantime, though, let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite book?
Okay, so I like the Michael Lewis, always the combination of history, science in a good story, makes a good reading book, and Michael Lewis sure knows how to do it. The one that I would recommend is Flash Boys, the one that talks about high frequency trading. Yep. People know the Big Crash or the Big Short book, but that's the one I like most.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Probably in my case, it will be Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building Salto?
The one that I'm using personally, not necessarily just in Salto, it will be unleash.so. Take a look at it. Think about, you know, we used to do desktop search like Spotlight in Mac, but most of the data right now is not there. And if you want to look at the data, you have to look elsewhere in all your SaaS. This tool will allow you to look elsewhere.
Unleash.so, very good. And how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I'm trying to get to about 6.
Okay, and what's your situation, Benny? Married, single, kids?
Married with 3 daughters.
3 kids. Great. And how old are you?
63.
63 years young. Last question, Benny. What do you wish you knew when you were 20?
I wish I would explore some more the area of life science. Now with the pandemic, the fact that you can develop molecules, cure real world problems in such a speed using this type of technology is amazing. I wish I would know more about this and be able to participate some more.
Guys, Salto.io, based in Tel Aviv, is bringing DevOps to sales ops. They've raised a war chest to do it. Over almost $70 million raised, 42 million Series B earlier this year, really to attract great talent as they look to scale. 46 on the team today. They've got under $1 million in revenue, but they just turned on paying customers a couple months ago as they're now looking to scale and already seeing great expansion revenue in those early signups. They're going to have an exciting 2022. Benny, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you very much.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers. They try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.